we're going to transition from one legend to another legend. Ben Sutton, come on up here. You guys know Ben? What's up? A tough act to follow.
Now, I'm going to tell you, that guy's got some energy. By the way, for those of you that stayed, and if you stay, if you leave now, it's a must be present to win. There's beer and wine on the way in. So,
is that right?
Yeah, you get you get rewarded for sticking around.
Did you know? I asked him, what was your first car?
My first car was a Ford Pinto. Yeah,
okay.
It was on the farm. Actually, my brother and I bought a little Chevrolet Love truck together, but then it didn't work to own the same car. And so we had to get different cars, so we sold it, and I got the Pinto. I bought a Pinto, and I can't remember what he bought. He got way more girls in his car than I did in mine.
Okay, well, we did a great thing a great story on Ben when he became an SBJ champion a few years ago. And I love the anecdote of one of your classmates that you basically would do anything for $1. You love to mow lawns.
Love to sell.
You would do whatever.
Yeah.
Like, so I asked him the craziest job growing up. What was your craziest job growing up?
My first one was probably, my first job was I went door to door selling Christmas cards in the little town that we lived on the edge of.
In North Carolina?
In North Carolina, Murfreesboro, North Carolina. And then by the time I was 11, I had my own lawn mowing service, and my next two brothers joined me in that. It was fun to have a little jingle in your pocket.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So we're going to talk about your entrepreneurial nature. Now it's of course, in college sports, but now youth sports. You're bullish on youth. Why?
I am. I was actually talking to George Pine recently. A lot of you know George, but I actually looked hard at the high school sports space in particular, the last couple of years of ISP, first couple of years of IMG, for the same reason that it's been frustrating for brands to invest in youth sports. Was really kind of the reason we didn't go into it at the time. We had so much on our plate, but it's such a fragmented space. Mm-hmm. So you got 20,000 high schools, you got 8 million high school athletes. I think there are 15 million high schoolers across the country. But over the years, I've studied this, and I hired Mike Wolfert, who's our CEO of TPG, who's been with me for 25 years. And he is to come back and run this company. And we determined 5.5, 6 years ago when we went into this space, it's a go big or go home proposition. It was really much as the experience we had at ISP. You needed to go get as much beachfront property as you could. You needed to lock it up for as long as you could. The beachfront property in the high school youth sports space, or most valuable in our view, is owning the rights to high school athletic associations, because they own all the tournaments.
Yes.
So you finally have an opportunity to have all your rights aggregated around 60 or 70 different sports that the State High School Athletic Association owns the rights to once the regular season is over. And so Mike and his team have done a great job. They've got 36 of the 50 states. And we hope to add more. Our buddy Craig Sloan was here earlier speaking.
Playfly. Yeah.
Doug Pascal kind of got him in that business when he was running the old Out Front. Doug's actually on Mike's board. But we really like that space, and Mike has done an absolutely fabulous job of rolling those rights together and building a very credible company. And, it's funny because I used to be, I still am, a lot of the college business, but I love the slide that one of the guys had, Craig, or I think it was Craig's slide actually, about, kind of where college fits and how many fans are in college. And, we used to go around kind of beating our chest at ISP and IMG that college sports has more fans than really anybody in the country. But the reality is high school sports probably has more. They're both in the 180 to 190,000 or 190 million range, and there's so much appetite there, Abe. And you have to remember, like college, fandom is there's portability. because if you live here, you're a Bears fan. If you're an NFL fan,
Yep.
you buy Bears season tickets. Your job transfers you. Bank of America says come back and work in Charlotte. You become a Panthers fan. You don't have the portability in pro sports that you do in high school and college. And there's 5 million new people, new consumers coming in every single year. It's like a replenishing product.
So you do liken it to the college sports of 25 years ago.
It reminds me, it is so much like our experience in ISP was in the early 90s, 92 to 95. All of our research was that this is an underdeveloped, really almost untapped resource. And there's still a lot of that in college, by the way. I mean, if the college folks get out of their way, there's so much money left. I mean, every NFL team's making, $263 million in television rights money. If you aggregate Saturday day part ratings and put them against, a league that benefits from a full antitrust exemption on Sunday, and you put those ratings, kind of the top 64 or 70 teams in this league, and put them against the 32 teams in the NFL, it's pretty comparable.
Yeah, it is.
And yet colleges are raking $30 to $35 million on average at the Power 4 level, where the pros are making $263. The math does not math, right? And so we see that kind of in the high school space.
But do you think the high school space can have that much commercial revenue invested in it?
If you ask, there are a lot of CPG brand managers and CMOs that have been in this conference, and we went into this space because I had so many of my buddies that ran companies like that said the most valuable consumer on earth for us is a 14 to 18-year-old, because they're impressionable and you can build lifelong brand loyalty. And so that really informed a great deal our rationale for going in this space. And I have to say, while we've grown our business, by having so many of these state high school athletic associations come in, but the reality is we're 100x bigger almost than we were 5 years ago when we got in the space. And we now have
in the youth sports, 100% bigger.
We have our national sales leader is here today, who lives in Dallas, also a former ISP and IMG. They're like 75 or 80 of us out of 400 people in between our two companies that have been at all 3 stops: ISP people, IMG people, and now at Till in either Revel XP or TPG. 2.5 years ago, we couldn't close a national deal because we didn't have the girth to do it. 2.5 years later, it's a third of our business.
Third of your business.
It's a third of our business because we have the National Association, 36 states. We actually have the ability. We have the ability to kind of sell into Playfly's properties, and so So we think it's a great next bastion of opportunity.
So Ben, these questions kind of from the audience hit on that. Can Ben explain exactly what revenue verticals he's selling? So you're doing, is it all sponsorship, or would you be doing ticketing and any other things?
Yes. So it's sponsorship, it's ticketing. There's a national streaming network.
Okay, so there's media involved.
That company, Play on Sports, David Rudolph,
yep.
very bright young guy, Georgia Tech guy. And we sell all of his sponsorship on those broadcasts, and they have probably 90 or 95% of the marketplace in that space. And so it's really all of those things. But, the thing I always loved about the college sports rights that we owned, and I used to tell my buddy John Skipper, who, still to this day is the brightest media mind I've ever known.
Is that right?
News or sports of all time. I think he's the smartest guy I ever knew. And he's really a little bit of a mentor to me. I love the guys from North Carolina, right down the road from where I live. And, and I would say to him, we're taking all the things that ESPN doesn't want. They got subscriber revenue. They're selling, doing ad sales, sponsorship sales on their broadcast. But we took everything else. And I still believe that the experiential piece, the part where you can actually touch the consumer, which is what you could do through our former company in the college right space and what you can do through this company, being on the ground where you can actually touch the consumers is meaningful for brands that invest in this space. And we have, like, you know, great companies, and we've got a couple of huge pitches out right now that would be transformational. And you'll remember, I mean, you guys covered this, you know, when we sold the first truly national sports deal to UPS in 2011 or 12, because we finally had the girth, the breadth and depth and the scale to go to market and say, gosh, this is kind of NFL Properties-esque. And as you know, there was great proof of concept. Miller Coors came in, State Farm came in, banks came in, and we believe that we're on the precipice, like literally, he invoked Malcolm Gladwell's name a moment ago. I mean, I think we're at that tipping point.
And so if you do a deal like that, that would touch all of the sports programs within the high school?
Everything.
Okay, and someone said here, he mentions 36 states. Does that mean there is inability to do deals in the other states, or? No. So we would, if somebody wanted to come, if the couple of folks that Rob's talking to right now, you know, we would certainly go negotiate some kind of a deal. Playfly is really the only other firm in this space. There are a couple of states that maybe have a small rep firm or are trying to do it themselves. I watched the same thing happen, you know, when we were collapsing the multimedia rights space. When we opened ISP, you know, every school had 7 rights holders. They had Learfield doing radio or Host doing radio. They had somebody else doing their game day program, somebody else doing their scoreboards. And you know, my case study at that time was University of North Carolina. They had 7 rights holders. Now they just have 1. And so that's basically, we're trying to collapse the market that way for the benefit of the high school athletic associations. That money is then downstreamed to the high schools. And you know, it's not different than what I've said about smaller conferences in college football. If I were anything outside of the Power 4, I'd have all of my rights from all of my schools in one bucket. I mean, I would not have a multimedia rights holder at 14 different schools. And we tried to do this a lot in our IMG and ISP experience, but the more fragmented and the more granular and the further down you go in the waterfall, the more valuable your rights are going to be if you can group them all together, bond them together. And these state, I have to give these men and women who run these state high school athletic associations, first of all, they are incredibly dedicated to what they do. And they believe that they possess lightning in a bottle, and that they own the keys to the kingdom of kind of wholesome family sports entertainment. Because, you know, in the ISP IMG days, I tell every one of there's 10 people here that were there with me, including a speaker on your next panel who owns his own business. They'll tell you that I would say, you know, we own not only the value proposition because we were less expensive than professional football or professional baseball, but we own the values proposition because our kids play for them on the front of the jersey, not on the back. You can't really say that about college sports anymore. I mean, in fact, it is the most transactional of all the leagues because there are no rules. It's
true. So there is zero loyalty. And I mean, you know, they were talking earlier about hardest jobs in America being an athletic director. I'm not sure why anybody wants to come into college and be a college football or basketball coach right now. And that is where all the issues are. They reside in 2 sports.
Right. What would be the headwind or the obstacle from you being successful in this space? Even, I know you're successful now, but really being successful.
If we found that big brands wouldn't buy in.
Got it.
But you know, the
market response,
the research, the data that we have, my partner Lizzie Ward, who runs our strategy and marketing, you know, well known to a lot of you in this room. We talk about it all the time. I mean, you have not only do you have this premium kind of 14 to 18 demo, but you've got their parents, their grandparents, all the other people that rally around. And remember, that all the elementary school parents and all the middle school parents and those kids all feed into certain high schools. So they just bring that already unending, unbending loyalty to high school. And we think there are other things in youth sports as well, but we thought that high school was the first place to come in and really try to roll up and build a national platform. And we've done it, and market leader and first time in the history of high school sports where you could go to one place and pretty much buy the country.
Can we have some quick hitters with you?
Absolutely.
If you were czar of sports for one day, what would you change?
All sports or
college sports?
College sports. Well, I would level the playing field by creating some antitrust space so that you could have real conversations around what is ultimately going to happen anyway, and that is that ultimately student athletes will be deemed as employees and there will be collective bargaining, and the 4 big leagues would get together and actually go out and get their fair share in terms of revenue. And so, by the way, I love all 4 guys. I mean, they're all friends of mine. But 2 conferences actually don't provide enough content. So it's going to take more than the Big Ten. It's going to take more than the SEC in order to combat the competition. The competition, Roger Goodell, I love him, man. He's a smart guy, but he has to love that there's all this kind of controversy inside the 4 leagues, right? Because if they're all together, that's going to be his worst nightmare.
That's pretty powerful.
Right? That is not what him or my friend Jay Monahan or anybody else, they don't want, they should not want college to come together because historically for 50 years, there's professional football, again, the beneficiary of an antitrust exemption, and college football without one nipping at their heels. And then the gap between that and every other sport is the Gulf of Mexico or America, which is whatever your choice may be. So you decide.
And then based on that, is there another story in sports business outside of college and the changes there, outside of the growth of youth, that you're particularly watching over the next 12 months?
So I would say this. I think it's interesting to see the rise of other sports. And I'm not going to get into the political thing about the, like what's going on with, transgenders playing sports and all that. So that story doesn't count to me. I'm going to focus on what I look at is I see, that year over year, the last 3 years, the increase in the number of girls that play flag football in America is like 100% a year. Mm-hmm. Like there's no sport in the world that's growing that fast. I think that the advent of sports like that come in and have an opportunity to actually disrupt the status quo in terms of how people choose which sport they might play is pretty phenomenal. I've always thought that, women's softball, first of all, the games only last an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half. We live in an ADD world, and the content is massively compelling. Yes. I always thought the NCAA screwed up by not making that, a marquee sport, and because it's great content. And it's very sellable, and it's extraordinarily watchable.
Same with volleyball.
Same with volleyball.
All right, so when we did this story on Ben, we called them Benisms. These are things, his favorite sayings or expressions. I'd love for you to elaborate briefly. Little things make big things happen.
One of the greatest mentors in my career. I was very fortunate in the last 10 years of his life, thanks to our pal Dan Guerrero, the longtime AD at Athletic Director at UCLA, to meet the great Coach John Wooden. John Wooden, in my view, is the greatest coach in modern sport, period. Not just in college basketball, not in college sports. He is the greatest coach in the history of modern sport. And by the way, I commend to you, as I have with every teammate I've ever had, the thousands of people that have worked in the companies that we've built, to read some of his books because they're phenomenal. he was a big fan of little things make big things happen, and dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's. He used to tell me, he said, like the games were almost anticlimactic because it was the practice that mattered. It was instilling the discipline and structure and culture around our program to do all the little things in practice right, because then they showed themselves on the court. And you can't argue with a guy who won, 11 straight and a dozen NCAA championships. There'll never be another run.
We were very lucky to have that time.
Oh my God, he was the best.
This must have been a local saying, but how's your mom and them?
I grew up on a farm in eastern North Carolina. It's actually one word. When you meet people, instead of saying, how you doing, or how's your day going, we walked up to people and said, how's your mom and them? And it stuck somehow. And, that you have to understand where I grew up. There may be 4,000 in the whole county and 1,500 in the town. And it's just one of my little Southernisms.
You bet on jockeys, not horses.
Absolutely. Every company, every deal I ever tried to buy, every interview I've conducted with potential leaders to be in our various companies, I really believe in that. Secretariat may be the exception to the rule. Maybe anybody could have gotten on the back of that horse and won the Triple Crown. But I really believe in the idea of finding incredibly dedicated talent who treat what they do every day as a craft. And they're all in and they're passionate. If you work in a Ben Sutton company, I can tell you that, one of our primary values and tenets has always been, that the pursuit of joy. Like if you come to our place every day and that's not what you're dying to do, I actually really want you to go work somewhere else.
Really?
Yeah. I want to have people around that are dying to invent spaces.
So that leads to pick your partner and we'll figure out the deal.
Yeah. I think, nobody gets married thinking they're going to get divorced. I think I always thought like bid processes and all that kind of stuff that schools ran were, like when the purchasing office would get in it, that was a scary thing, because then it's just like a bunch of numbers on a page. And I used to say to athletic directors, Mike says it to high school athletic association folks, if you think we're the best, figure out what you think your deal needs to be, pick us, and we will make that deal happen.
And tell the people you love that you love them.
Absolutely.
I don't think that happens enough, probably.
I don't think it happens enough. You and I have talked about this on many occasions, but my parents are knocking on the door of their 94th and 88th birthdays. They've had to bury two of my brothers at very young ages relative to actuarial charts, and including one 3 years ago tragically. And I'd do anything. We always say in our family, we're a very close family. We always tell each other we're big huggers, tell each other we love each other. But I'd love to have one more shot with both of them.
Mm-hmm. So
don't waste the opportunity.
Right. Tell the people you love them.
Absolutely.
Last thoughts for this group here. What should they be thinking about as they leave this conference, as they go back to their jobs in sports business? I
would say, I'm sitting up here. I have to say this, and everybody, I would like for you to join me giving a hand to Abe Madcore.
No, stop it.
Because I said to the first owner of the magazine and Abe, Whitney Shaw's a Wake Forest guy, and to Abe many times, what you've done in this space is a great American entrepreneur story. And entrepreneurs create all the new ideas and jobs just about in the world. And everybody can be an entrepreneur. It's a choice. It's not something you're born to be or not be. And I think, really looking, the word disruption gets used way too much. Inflection points gets used way too much. But I'm telling you, there's so many inflection points and moments of disruption that we could all create in our daily lives. The worst thing any of us can do is read our own press clippings, be complacent, and not look for some exponentially incredible growth opportunity every single day. I mean, most people probably would have retired when I sold the company the first time or the second time, but I didn't. And I literally believe that I'm on earth to be a job creator, a free enterprise practitioner, a defender of capitalism, because I believe economic freedom is the basis to all American freedom. And so and the best way to practice all of that is to go out and just create and innovate every single day. There's a great saying at our place. I mean, you never say in front of me, we can't do that because we've always done it this way before. That's like it's time to go work for the government. You know, I mean, because that's what they do, okay? And that's why we need less of it. That's my only political statement of the day. So that's what I'd say. Be a disruptor, and you know, go in there and just shake stuff up and change it.
Well, you've
have the energy of that guy that was sitting here before me.
And you've done it your entire life and career. Give it up for Ben Sutton, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to end very strong. Our last panel, I'm going to bring back up Irving to lead our next group. Come on up, everybody.